I always have a saying when it comes to free agency. The teams that most of the times do absolutely nothing actually are making better moves by just not making any moves. Now, there's always a couple of players in free agency that are going to fall through the cracks, and there's going to be some good value buys, but mostly free agency is terrible in the NHL. Mostly it's a bunch of guys in a hard cap league getting massively overpaid and having average players with inflated cap hits always causes problems. Now, I'm not going to touch on the Vancouver Canucks just a little bit, but I want to touch on things like the Jeannot contract. He got $3.5 million. Tanner Jeannot. What the hell is that? Cody Ceci got $4.5 million. I'm sorry. That's disgusting. I would never touch that contract. And I'm really glad that the Vancouver Canucks just stayed out of this. They stayed calm, they stayed logical, and they made sharp decisions. That's good management right now. And I would tell Vancouver Canucks fans, or any Canucks fans, be careful who you get your information from, because Elliotte Friedman is the pinnacle of insiders. Some insiders have some pretty good information, but they have a higher miss rate. But Elliotte Friedman is always bang on with his information. And he talked about Brock Boeser, and he was saying that the biggest holdup with the contract was term. Term. Like, he wanted more term. And that's what the Canucks bent on. And I am completely fine with that. If you've been following this channel for a while, I was just saying, listen, Brock Boeser's pretty good. He has a level of inconsistency in his offense. He might score 25 goals. He might score 40 goals. He might score 20. He's a little bit inconsistent. You can't count on exactly what he's going to give you, but he's a top goal-scoring winger. That's just what he is. 25 goals last year. $7 million cap hit is completely reasonable. 7.2 million cap hit is completely reasonable. And a 7-year deal just takes him to 35 years old. Now, the Canucks were really worried about giving that to him. And I do understand that. But with the cap going up and up and up and up, that contract will not look nearly as bad. And I think players that might not skate really well can still have ability to, he's not going to lose his shot, right? He's not going to lose as much of his offensive instincts. So I really don't actually mind this contract for the Vancouver Canucks at all. Now we go to Connor Garland. I really like this contract. I think he could score 50 or 60 points in the next number of years each year for the Vancouver Canucks. He's only getting paid about $6 million with the cap going up, so they're locking up players on the long term that have evidence of scoring. And this is perfect for the Vancouver Canucks. This is exactly what they need. Stand still. You might as well just re-sign your players that you have if they want to re-sign. When it comes to Brock Boeser and Garland, neither of those guys wanted to leave. The Vancouver Canucks have the benefit of being a pretty decent city, pretty decent climate. It's not that cold there. Players genuinely actually like being in the city of Vancouver. Now, question of the video. What exact moves do you think the Vancouver Canucks have to make from here? I think that they've done a good job of keeping Quinn Hughes happy, because of course Quinn Hughes wants to remain in a competitive organization. Now with them re-signing both of these players, I genuinely think that they could very well make the playoffs next year. I think they had a very weird season last year, and I think it's not a guarantee, but I think they could absolutely make the playoffs. Now, my main criticism of this video is going to be the Thatcher Demko contract. He got 3 years times $8.5 million. Now, one thing that I would like to commend the Canucks on is they did a good job of keeping his term short. He only got 3 years, and for that, I'm very happy that he only got 3 years. And if Thatcher Demko returns back to where he was, this contract will look completely fine. But $8.5 million AAV, that is a lot. I've said this for a while that I think that Thatcher Demko's injury history, and he said he has an injury that's probably going to affect him for the rest of his career. I remember him saying that. This worries me a little bit here. But again, the Vancouver Canucks did what they should be doing and just said, hey, we're just going to give you 3 years, and that's it. With his $8.5 million cap hit and Lankinen's $4.5 million cap hit, the Vancouver Canucks will be spending $13 million on goaltending. That is a lot of money on goaltending. That's generally not my personal philosophy with goaltending. I think goaltending is important, but it's simultaneously the most important position, but also the most random. And you're sitting here being like, I'm not sure how each of these will age. I like Lankinen. I like Demko when he's healthy. I just don't trust either of those contracts. But of course, I'm hoping that will work out for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the Canucks are certainly going to be making a trade this offseason with their old goaltending depth and Seelovs. So they're definitely going to be moving on from him, I would imagine. And they're definitely going to be making some more moves. I would really like to see, I wonder what's going to happen with Pius Suter. What's going to happen there and who's going to pay him. Because I think he is going to get a huge payday. Because the last we did hear is that the Vancouver Canucks were working on a contract with Pius Suter to try to get it done. This is going to be an overpay to me, but this is an overpay when it comes to the center position that I can actually forgive the Canucks for. Proper centers in the NHL are almost impossible to find. So it's going to be an overpay. They're probably going to give him $4.5 million or something like that. And that is an overpay for a middle six center. There's no doubt about that. But how can you get mad at them? I mean, their centers don't exist. No, I mean, the teams are trying to trade for Max Domi apparently because nobody has centers. This is how bad it's gotten, right? So we have Nikolai Ehlers and we have Suter, and I think that these guys are gonna get massively overpaid. But anyways, I'm going to leave this video here. If you make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that, guys. And make sure to have a great day. Goodbye, guys.